Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar to effectively communicate performance program changes during COVID-19. My name is Maria Poli. I'm the marketing manager here at GuidesPark. And while we're giving everyone a chance to arrive and before diving into our topic, I'm going to go over the housekeeping for today. So at the bottom of your screen, you can see a little Q&A section, so you can submit your question through there. We'll be answering all the questions at the end of the webinar. If you use social media, please use iGuidespark or GS Webinar to mention our webinar. And at the end of this event, we'll be sending out the recording and the slide of the event. And now with no further ado, I'll let Mack take over.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria. Happy to be with you all today. As Maria mentioned, my name is Mack Alsbury. I'm a member of our product management team here at GuidesPark. And just a little bit about me and my background. So most of my experience for the last 10 years has been as an HR generalist or business partner, most recently as an HR manager at Comcast. I've had the opportunity to be a part of countless different HR initiatives and programs. And throughout that time, I know I've heard this many times that sometimes HR can be labeled or get the label of being kind of a bubble machine or putting out different flavors of the month and so many different change initiatives that impact people and it can always be a challenge. And I really wanted to be a part of helping to fix that problem and helping HR to really connect to their employees through different change initiatives, which is what kind of brought me here to GuidesPark in this new role, and introducing kind of GuidesPark and what we're all about here today. So really, you know, when I came to GuidesPark, I wanted to be a part of helping organizations really be able to actually execute on their most important change initiatives. And that is really where GuidesPark is focused, is on providing change communication solution that enables personalized consumer-like experiences to engage employees and drive behavior changes that are required to achieve business outcomes. And that's really our passion, what we're all about here at GuidesPark. And so we wanted to put on this webinar to kind of do a deeper dive into specifically the world of performance management. We're getting close towards the end of the year, and this is kind of top of mind for a lot of organizations that we work with. And we want to take some time to kind of dive into this of what it looks like during these kind of unique and challenging times. So jumping into this here, we know that, you know, this, if you can see this image, it's a little bit dark here, but this is the Choluteca Bridge located in Honduras. And probably much of the year 2020 in general can kind of be summed up with this image. A lot of 2020 in general feels this way for a lot of different reasons, but when we think about performance management, you know, it's kind of like this bridge, and you know, the Cliff Notes version of this is that essentially that they built a bridge, a great bridge in Honduras that was built the way it was supposed to. It was effective. It did what it needed to do to get from one side of a river to the other. And then unfortunately there was a hurricane that came through and essentially shifted the entire landscape. The river itself was actually shifted from one area to another, making this bridge essentially useless. Even though the bridge itself was built correctly, the plans were made and blueprints, and it was constructed correctly and in the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, you know, hurricane came through and shifted everything. A lot of 2020, and specifically when we think about performance management, you know, everything's kind of shifted, and goals and work and everything is kind of shifted, both for organizations but also for individuals. A lot of people's lives has kind of been turned upside down, and we're trying to adjust, and the river has completely shifted for many of us. You know, many have had to completely shift how they measure success, what that looks like. Unfortunately, many employees have been furloughed. Maybe now they're coming back to work and trying to figure out how do they accomplish goals that they set, you know, in the different world back in January or February of 2020, maybe working remote. Maybe their job has been fundamentally altered, and what they do is totally different now than maybe what they did before the pandemic. You know, and many companies have shifted what and how that they go about their business. We saw a lot of manufacturing companies shift into focus on mass production of masks when there was that shortage there. And maybe some businesses not so much has really changed for them, but really everybody has been impacted in one way or the other. And to that end, we wanted to just share out a quick poll with you all. So we're going to launch this poll. So you should be seeing that on your screen, and feel free to vote here. And so, oh, actually, hold on one second. Let me try that one more time. Make sure that I launch this the right way. Continue. Let's see. Let's relaunch. Let's try this one
You
more.
just close the polling. Just
I did. Okay, let's try to.
I'll do it.
Thank you. Allow panelists to vote. I think I had launched it, but didn't allow you to vote. Okay, so it should be launched now. And so, yeah, so the questions we're asking here essentially, can be summed up. This is very, very basic, but curious to know how performance management approach has changed at your organization. For many, the top kind of three that we've kind of found, and we encourage you to pick the one that most kind of resembles your organization. Is, hey, some of the ways that we execute have been adjusted, obviously due to the pandemic, but for the most part, processes and our approach and how we do it, philosophy has remained the same. Or maybe a lot of organizations have abbreviated or simplified dramatically, the process and how they perform their performance management cycle. And even in some organizations, the whole thing has kind of been shifted out, or maybe it's been completely canceled during this time. So we've got a lot of responses here already, and it looks like for the most part, about half of us are in this first bucket here, where there's been some adjustments to the way that things have been executed, but for the most part, processes and approach has essentially remained the same. And then about a third of you, have said that it's been an abbreviated cycle, and then a few saying that it's basically been postponed, or it's not happening at all during this time. So thank you all for participating in that. That's good to know. So obviously a lot of changes have been going on during this time. So as we want to kind of get into just some of the ways, some of the key challenges that we're faced with during the pandemic as it pertains to performance management. Obviously, goals have had to shift for pretty much everybody, with few exceptions. At an individual and at an organization level, we've had to regularly reprioritize our goals due to changing environment. A lot of times there's been fewer regular conversations happening. There's more barriers to traditional communication methods than especially the in-person and informal methods. There's been an increase in other methods such as Slack or other collaboration tools, Microsoft Teams. There's been a lot of uptick in those kind of collaboration tools. Another big struggle goes without saying, is there's a lot of additional struggle and challenges that present themselves with work-life balance. We're obviously in a unique scenario. At any moment, I have two little wonderful, a 5 and 4-year-old that at any moment they could come busting through the door, and there's probably not much I could do about that. But that's, I hope that does not happen and we're not distracted, but they would be very excited to come in and tell you all about their favorite PJ Masks character. But we hope that doesn't happen, but it's added, some additional light to this, and potentially can put additional strain on that ability for employees and managers and leadership to connect. As also, for most organizations, a lot of these conversations have had to go virtual. I don't even remember the last time I saw my manager in person. It's been a long time. And lastly, one thing that I think is kind of understated here, but it's very important, is a lot of those informal feedback channels have gone away. And what I mean by that is the more subtle conversations that happen kind of, around the water cooler or in, daily work, especially when you're in person. So I think back on some great feedback that I've received from leaders. And so much of that has come, maybe in the elevator ride after a big presentation, and kind of the look and the nod, like, hey, good job, or the disapproving shake of the head, like, yeah, we screwed that up. We need to talk later. A lot of those informal methods and those channels have kind of been eliminated because of this, unfortunately. And these are just some of those key challenges to having performance conversations and getting feedback to employees. There's a lot of challenges here. So one thing that so Gallup has come out with kind of 3 main keys of how to manage how to deal with performance management during COVID-19. And the 3 kind of key principles that they've come up with are things that are pretty familiar: agile goals, ongoing conversations, and dynamic adjustments to accountability and incentives. And this really highlights what I think most of us that have been in performance management have known for a long time. And a lot of these principles are not necessarily new, but it's really turn up the volume on the necessity of the ability to be agile and to be able to change quickly as needed. And this stands in stark contrast to maybe a more traditional approach where an employee sets a number of goals in January, then kind of at the end of the year, or maybe there's a mid-year review where they kind of dust those off and they take a look at the goals that they made back in January, and they dust those off in December and look at that again. There's a big emphasis here on needing to be able to adjust and be able to adjust quickly. We need to, and a big part of this is making these changes simpler and easier for our employees and for our managers to make those adjustments, both through different and new processes or simplified or streamlined processes, and then also strengthening that relationship and the frequency of conversations happening between employees and their leaders. And another thing that feel prompted just to share with you all, that kind of goes without saying here, but I will say, this is a quote from Rebecca Knight with Harvard Business Review. Especially as we're getting closer to year-end reviews for many, just a reminder that we do want to approach our evaluations with more flexibility, leniency, empathy, and compassion. We don't want to be hard-hearted towards our poor performers. We know that there's so much going on in the world today. And so just a gentle reminder, we've got our friend Bob Ross here, that now is a great time for us to be a little more focused on being a little bit more like Bob Ross, a little bit less like a drill sergeant. Incidentally, today is actually the late great Bob Ross's birthday, October 29th. So when you're done with this, obviously, get your paints out. You can draw some happy trees, some happy clouds, and enjoy yourselves. Remember that there's no mistakes, just happy little accidents. So that's a good reminder in this year where there's been so much going on, so many distractions, so many difficult decisions and things going on in the world. Good time to be a little bit more like Bob Ross, a little less like a drill sergeant. So when we get into, there's a lot of changes and adapting, and in a lot of cases, simplifying or helping our organizations both through, simplified and streamlined processes, and also those regular conversations happening between leaders and employees. So as an organization, how can we drive this? As if I'm managing the performance management process at my company, how do I actually help these behavior changes and adjustments really take place? And what we found is that the real key to this, the linchpin in all this, is communications and how we are communicating that throughout our organization. And really what that provides, through good, solid communications, it ensures alignment across individual and company goals, very important. We want to be able to drive consistency across the performance process. We also want a way to be able to reach and engage diverse and in many cases now distributed employees, maybe more distributed than they were before, many working remote or in different places all over. And really communications is really the linchpin of making that happen. And so when we think about the, at GuideSpark, really our approach to what we call, cutting through the noise here is we think about in these three kind of main points here is first, we need an ability to reach out and to get the message to our employees using a multi-channel targeted approach, using campaigns. We really view these types of changes more as what we call a communication journey. It doesn't quite work just to send out one big long email with everything, with the whole performance management process in there. Hey manager, make sure at this point you do this, at that point you do that. That's just, it falls into that category of just the too long, didn't read. To that point, the messaging needs to be engaging. And so today, a lot of the competition on employees' times now, it's not just distractions at work, but it's also social media, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's other things that it can be distracting as well, that employers are competing with. And so the emphasis really here is on a consumer-like, short, snack-sizable, content experiences that give them the right information at the right time. That's actionable for them. And then really a key component of this is how do we measure and optimize that? So how do we know if people are actually paying attention? Is anybody reading, the emails that are going out? Is anybody paying attention to the newsletter or to the Slack messages that are being sent out? It's easy for us to kind of feel like Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller's Day Off a lot of the time. And for any time we're making any kind of change, it's important to get that two-way feedback on how things are going, especially now, while so much has changed in the environment. That's so important to be getting that honest two-way feedback from our employees on how things are going, and that we as performance management, program manager, HR professionals, that we are keeping a pulse of what's actually going on. It's important for us to know if employees and managers are actually understanding, if they're getting the information, if they're understanding and taking the approach that we're wanting them to take. And so that becomes extremely important during this process. And so, and really one thing to think about is deploying kind of more of a marketing mindset and a marketing strategy. Today, there's more ways than ever to communicate to our employees internally. Obviously, many others. Obviously, there's email. There's so much going on with collaboration tools, with Slack, with Zoom. Microsoft Teams is exploding. We have text links that can be embedded in intranets and other sites, newsletters, posters, face-to-face meetings, everything. There's so many different channels. And we found in our experience at GuideSpark that it's really not enough to just say, hey, there's a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really important that organizations are measuring the effectiveness of their communications, and so that they're able to make those adjustments, that they understand, if we send an email to this particular audience at this particular time, what's the open rate of that? What's the likelihood that they're going to actually engage in that communication and click on the link that we've sent out for them to do? When we send out a reminder to, hey, make sure that your goals are being updated. Are people actually looking at that? Are they clicking on it? Are they actually then getting to the end of the row where they're actually updating their goals? That's extremely important, that we found that the last piece that a lot of times gets ignored. It's one thing just to blast out a bunch of information and then just kind of hope and hope that is being read and engaged with. It's very important that those things are measured, and that's kind of a big component of where we try to focus at GuideSpark, is really trying to understand what our employees are doing, giving them the opportunity to tell us and to have some simple polling and to get their sentiment along the way. So really, the key is communicating the most relevant information to the right groups of employees at the right time. And just some examples of some organizations that we've had the opportunity to work with when it comes to making iterations to their performance management approach and processes here. And in our experience, we've seen some instant and significant impact on the effectiveness of the behavior changes that they've tried to drive when it comes to performance management. It's pretty dramatic and pretty clear that when companies, when they really take a strategic approach to how they communicate and when they communicate, and what channels they use to do that with, that can be measured and then improved upon over time to get to that end result, to have greater engagement in and greater success in driving those behavior changes needed. And so as we as we think of performance management, obviously performance management is tied to so much more than just goal setting and putting in goals and tracking goals. That is very important, but obviously has a clear connection into career development. That's very important, that we're setting goals not just for the immediate future, but also for longer term for employees. And that's been proven time and time again to be important for keeping employees engaged and excited about coming into work day in and day out. The other piece of this that's very integrally that's very integral to performance management is also compensation, and those things are really linked together. And companies are really focused on doing a better job of making sure that they're driving a more pay for performance type culture. Performance management done right is really the key foundation for these other programs, especially compensation. And compensation is kind of another area that's undergoing a lot of changes, and a lot of things are going on in that space right now, as organizations are really trying to work to decipher what is the best approach during these uncertain times. It's so important that leaders are prepared for the different and challenging conversations, starting now with how to give good feedback during the pandemic, for goals that have changed and adjusted so much, and how that kind of ties into compensation here. That's such a key component. And kind of wrapping this up a little bit. So, really, this is what a partnership with GuideSpark, where we, deliver that value when it comes to driving performance management success. Is we've had experience in doing these things of, we know that we can improve the quality and consistency of your performance program, especially during these difficult times, more important than ever, as we've talked about. Driving deeper program engagement, getting that alignment, and driving skill development is going to save time and money by automating the communication process and how that information gets out there, and making that simpler on the administrative side to get that message out, and get it out in a way that people are really engaging with it and understanding and acting on it. And then lastly, ensuring that it is successful through a communications experience that's customized to you, to your brand, your culture, unique programs, and that we're able to measure and make those changes with you. This is what we are really excited about doing here at GuideSpark. And obviously we love the opportunity to partner with you all. We know that it's not a one size fits all. There is no one size fits all solution to the complexity that comes with the changing environment right now when it comes to helping people set effective goals and be able to give them the right feedback and help them to be successful and do their best work at your organization, and how to make sure that those goals are aligned with your organization goals. And that it's a unique challenge right now, and one that we at GuideSpark are really excited about, and really kind of drives our motivation and our juices to help organizations to kind of navigate through these difficult times through having a communications, a strategic communications approach. So with that, that is kind of the end of we're keeping this pretty short. That's the end of some of the content here that we have. At this point, we'll pull up Q&A. Murray can help me with that. We'll pull up if anybody has any questions. Perhaps you've already entered some questions in. If you have any questions or things you'd like us to talk about, feel free. You can enter that into the Q&A chat, as Maria mentioned before. And with that, we'll pull some of this up, and we can get to some of your questions. We'll give a few seconds here to pull that up.
Okay, oh, someone put something in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, you put it in the Q&A section or chat. We'll see it either way.
So Matt, could this best practice concept extend beyond COVID-19, and when normal returns?
Yeah, and I think obviously a lot of these principles that we've talked about today definitely are a lot of this is not actually new, and with so many other things, kind of the pandemic has just increased the volume and the importance of making sure that that these things happen. For the longest time, that there's been a conversation happening in the talent world about how to do performance management. It's kind of the consensus has been that the traditional approach of only talking with your manager, once a year, setting goals, and then talking about the end of the year does not work. And this has really just emphasized the importance of making sure that the managers and employees at the foundation of all of this, it's really all about managers and employees having frequent conversations and giving and getting direct feedback and specific feedback on the work that they're accomplishing. And that really these principles should be applied all the time, even after COVID. It's important that managers are being aligned and that there's regular communication from the organization level to help make sure that these conversations are actually happening, and that goals are being aligned, and that there's good quality goals. That's always been the debate that the debate in question that I know that I've always experienced in HR is okay, did we get everybody to put a goal in? Okay, yes, check the box. Everybody put in goals. Yeah, let's celebrate. That's always a win. The next question is always, what's the quality? What's the quality like of these goals? that they put in. Are they actually aligned to what we're trying to do in our organization? Is it really aligned with who we are in our mission? That can be more challenging. So we found that communications is always going to be a key part of that, both now during dynamic times and COVID, but even after COVID. And I would assume that the rate of change will continue to accelerate even post the pandemic, for sure. So that's a great question. And I'm seeing a question here from Matt Smith. Can you talk more about meaning making within the workplace? How can performance management strategies help team members better connect with the mission and or purpose of their work? Yes. That's a great question, Matt. This is so important because so many organizations, have been making this shift. And I think the pandemic and the social situation has really put a magnifying glass on this. Is the important that organizations have a clear mission and purpose. And what better way than to really make sure that employees are aligned than making sure that that their performance management strategies are really aligned to that as well. And making sure that that's really important. So if your mission and vision statement is around improving customer experiences, around providing excellence. If you work for a nonprofit, that needs to, as you're looking through one of your employees' goals, that needs to be reflected there. And what we found is it's not enough to just send out a one-time email or an occasional reminder like, hey, everybody, remember, this is our mission statement. This is what we're all about. But what we found is we consider this kind of a communication journey where that message needs to be reinforced over and over and over again. And just the importance of that. So appreciate that question. And I see that in here. So Matt Smith, also go Bengals. I'm not sure if everybody else is seeing that. That's great. Matt Smith and I go back to Helena High School, little known capital of Helena, capital of Montana, Helena High. Go Bengals, Bengal ball, always. So good to see you on here. Great question, Matt. Appreciate that. I know we're running a little bit short on time, but if there is any other questions, if anybody wants to put anything in, you can do so now, but we'll probably start to wrap it up here. We're running a little bit short on time. And I'll just say, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. We're going to look at some different methods. You can reach out to us at GuideSpark. You can always find me as well on LinkedIn, Mack Alsbury, MAC. You can find me there, and I'll let Maria kind of take us out here. Unless there's any other last minute questions, we'll probably turn over to Maria and wrap things up here.
Well, thank you, Mike, for your presentation today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll be sending out the presentation and the slide in the next couple of days. And have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.